my blood pressure has lowered by 50 points now, and my cholesterol dropped about 80 points, right? It's now in the low 150s, and it was 238. I've lost, listen to me, released, for sure 30 pounds have been released. And I'm sure more, because my tiny jeans that I had are too big. So that's been a wonderful bonus that's happened.
When my client Stephanie came to me just a few months ago, she was struggling with not just being overweight, but also high blood pressure, high cholesterol, vertigo, and other labs that were just off the charts. She knew that plant-based was the way to go, but needed help with actually taking what she understood was the best way to live and putting it into practice in her life.
So I gained some pounds, and I was looking to lose that weight. I joined Weight Watchers, and I lost 30 pounds on Weight Watchers, and I promptly gained 30 pounds back the following year, because it just wasn't working for me. So I had always been interested in exploring being vegan. Animal products never really sat very well with me, although I consumed many animal products during bodybuilding. So I was looking for a vegan coach. I was looking for a life coach. I was looking for a way to show up for myself. And so I started Googling. And I think, as most people do, found you through YouTube. And you were the one-stop shop. It was amazing, because I was looking for all the things that you offer. I was looking for nutrition coaching. I was looking for somebody to help me with my mindset. I was looking for a lot of guidance. So that's how I found you.
And I'm so happy that you did, because we made a really good team.
Yes.
Yeah. So we all start out, we're born, and then we're kids, and then some way or another, we find ourselves in this world focusing on nutrition and working out. So how did you get yourself into that world? For some people, they go on their first diet, they're put on a diet, they're put into a sport. How did you find yourself there?
So never any diets, really, until I was married and had my first baby, and promptly gained 80 pounds. And then that was in the 80s. So in the 80s, we did what we do. We starved it off of ourselves. So I did that, and a few more babies later, and getting into, I think when I got into CrossFit, I think that was my first experience really with a diet, if you will. So after CrossFit came bodybuilding, and that's when the true restrictive, crazy, really crazy diet started to happen. It was structured. It was measured to the ounce. It was measured to the milliliter. Animal protein and more animal protein, and was tilapia 3 ounces and asparagus 6 spears. I competed many times. I won those plastic trophies like crazy. Yay. And the last time I stepped off of stage was in, I believe, 2015. I was in so much pain. My stomach hurt so bad. I remember before I went onto stage, I was doubled over. I could hardly walk. I could hardly breathe. My breathing was really shallow. I was so sick, just with the worst stomach pain, but I pulled it together, and I stepped on stage, and I won. And after I stepped off stage, I drove myself to the hospital, and I was admitted to the hospital for 5 days with dehydration, protein toxicity, and something they call rhabdomyolysis, which is just your body is basically eating itself alive.
How was that for you emotionally to go through that experience?
slowly but surely in the hospital, as the days passed and I wasn't getting better, I started to realize, this is scary. I have kids at home, and I can't do this to myself. And when the doctor comes into your room and sits on the end of your bed and pats you on the leg, that's not a good sign, And he informed me that if things didn't start turning around, I would have to get into the ICU. I was going to have to go on dialysis. So yeah, it got real really fast. So we put 2 and 2 together and decided it was the diet. It was protein toxicity.
So that's 2015. Mm-hmm. What does life look like for the rest of 2015 into 2016?
2015 was a great year because I married my best friend. So we got married and we bought a motorcycle. And we have had motorcycles in the past, both of us, so it wasn't a new thing. But we bought a motorcycle and we got on that motorcycle together and we just went from restaurant to restaurant to restaurant. We ate everything in sight. We drank everything in sight, put restriction to the wind, and really went for it. So it took a little while. It felt like I gained weight overnight, but I didn't. It took a little while. But slowly over those couple of years, I gained some weight, obviously. Really gained some weight. About 50 pounds. And that's when the Weight Watchers stepped in. And I tried that. And it was so restrictive again. And I just recognized immediately that I can't do this. Mm-hmm. I can't eat out of a little box like that. Although I do it all the time now, my box is just way bigger. But I tried that. I tried Weight Watchers and it worked for a moment. And then I failed. You know what? I shouldn't say that. It failed me. It wasn't the right situation for me. So that's when I started looking for you. It's a long time between 15 and now, but it's a condensed version of what happened.
Yeah, I want to dig into it a little bit. It sounds like you got out of the hospital and you said, screw that. I'm done with the restriction. I'm done with harming my body. I'm going to go be free. Let's get on the motorcycle. Let's live our lives. Let's be in love together and go to the restaurant. So you went from one side of the pendulum right over to the other one. How long did you ride that side of the pendulum?
Oh my gosh. 5 years. Mm-hmm. A good 5 years.
Then what happened?
We bought a house, and my defining moment when we had our keys, and my husband, who is a big burly man, picked me up to carry me across the threshold, and his arms were shaking and he could barely walk. And I was like, oh, oops. That was really the defining moment for me, was that, not only that, but, that started me looking into my labs and things like that. And because honestly, we're okay. We love each other with whatever size we are. We've never, ever not loved each other for whatever size we are. So the size thing, I put that to bed when we drove off and I went to every restaurant alive. We didn't worry about physique anymore. But that was defining for me, to see him shake like that and barely be able to pick me up, as strong as he is. That was a moment. So that spurred me on to starting to look at my labs and my blood pressure, and those things were not good at all.
How do you go from the emotions of your husband picking you up and his arms shaking to, I need to look at my labs?
Because for me, I was determined not to make life about my body anymore. I spent a lot of years either making my body as strong as I could, as limber as I could, or to just whip it into submission to do these physique competitions. And I really, truly, I'm done with that. I'm really done with that. And I promised myself, because that's such an unhealthy place to be. Although when he carried me across the threshold, I was like, it triggered some memories for sure. And some things inside of me that I'm still working on today. But I decided, okay, that's just a marker for me. I need to dive deeper into what's going on here. So I went straight to the doctor and had my lab work done. My blood pressure was high. It probably had been for a long time. My cholesterol was, total cholesterol's 238. And my other lab work wasn't good. It just wasn't good at all.
Yeah, I remember you were saying your liver enzymes as well.
Yeah, I think that I probably have some residual damage, that I did to myself along the way. And my liver enzymes were high again. My kidney function's not great. I still struggle with kidney stones to this day, but we're working on that.
Mm-hmm. How did it feel for you when you got those results back?
It was shocking because, for the first time I felt my age. I felt like, oh, and here comes the excuse. This is what happens when we get older. Mm-hmm. I just was very much the mindset of a lot of people out there that think this is what happens. This is what happens. You turn 50 and things rapidly go downhill. And at that time I was smacked in the face with menopause. So that was extra fun. So yeah, a lot going on.
It's interesting when things happen to us that are very difficult to cope with, we say things and we think things that aren't aligned with who we are. For you, Stephanie, to say this is what happens as you get older, you are the second we got on this call, what did I say? I said, you're so youthful. Today's your birthday. And I said, I don't believe your age because you're so youthful. You look like a woman in her 30s, not a woman that's in her 50s. And so for you to say, this is what happens when you get older, that doesn't even sound like Stephanie. It's amazing that your brain said something that really wasn't you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, excuse, right? I mean, it's just because that's the path of least resistance. That's the give up mentality, I guess. And yeah, I'm actually staring at my front door right now because I can see the whole thing happening. Just, I am not immune to those little things popping up in my head. And that's why the mindset coaching is such a beautiful thing on your program, because it's just not about eating. It's just not. And I discovered things along the way about myself that I had no idea about.
So when did you get those labs back?
The first ones, mm-hmm. The high labs?
Yes.
That was 2020 and 2021. So they stayed high during the pandemic.
Mm-hmm. What did you do once you got those back?
Not a lot at first. I wallowed in this is just the way that things are going to be type of thing. I dabbled a little bit in reading. I discovered the books, the McDougall books, and kind of went down the YouTube rabbit hole, but wasn't able to make a success out of it myself because, again, I was going the path of least resistance while my husband is a huge meat eater. I mean, this man eats more meat than anybody should ever possibly eat, but it makes him happy and that's his life. So I don't fight him on it. But I was using, I'm going to disrupt dinner. My boys that are still living at home, they don't have any special kind of diet, vegan wise, they eat anything. So I'm going to disrupt them and I'm going to be the one that's causing the problem. And I think when you first interviewed me that very first time to decide whether I was right for your program or not, I remember saying I would go to the grocery store. I would push the cart down the aisle and I would pick out the things that my husband wanted. And I would pick out the things that my children wanted. And then I was looking inside the cart and I would think, oh, okay, well, I can eat that. I can eat that. I can eat that. I never ever picked things for me. I never picked anything for me. I never, and I think a lot of mothers are like that. A lot of wives are like that. A lot of people that are taking care of loved ones are like that. Everybody comes first before them. And food certainly was one of those things for me where I didn't care enough.
And you being a caretaker for your boys is such a huge part of your life, and you are very consumed by that. And it's a very big role that you have. So I can, of course, understand you are so beyond dedicated as a mother. I can see as well that that being part of your identity is, well, there's no time to take care of me. I got to take care of the boys.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I mean, what we're dealing with here is, not unique. There's a lot of mothers out there with children that have special needs. We just got hit pretty hard. And so we're dealing with autism, we're dealing with cerebral palsy and epilepsy all at the same time in twin boys that are now 14 and our total care. They're one of my sons is more independent than the other one, but one of my sons is especially he needs a lot of special care. He's absolutely 100% total care. So, it does. And their school is an hour away. I chose to keep them in the same school after we bought our house. Our house is perfect for them. So I'm super excited about that. But their school is an hour away, and their therapies and their doctors and their meetings, and any mom or caretaker that has children with special needs knows that takes up your life. It really does.
I want to highlight and have you sort of give your wisdom on this, how big of a transformation this was for you for so many reasons. The first is that you and your husband, you had the shared interests of gym and when you rode around on the motorcycle and go to all the restaurants. Mm-hmm. On top of that, you're the caretaker for your boys. You also have more kids than just the boys.
Lots more.
Yeah, you take care of them. You drive them to school an hour away. So how does somebody whose life is built around taking care of your boys and then your relationship with your husband, which in the past was gym and food, well, now we're going to do something totally different here. Can you talk to us about that transition?
I think that it just works. It just that there's no magic. I can't even think of anything. I think that my husband's birthday is tomorrow, so we're very much aligned with who we are, and we've seemed to transition in life as life has changed for us. We seem to have transitioned together. Most things when we're ready to move on to something else, we kind of both move on to something else. And but we also have our very separate interests, and we give each other space for those things too. So yeah, I mean, it was a big change, the whole bodybuilding thing. And then every once in a while we will be sitting on the couch and we'll say, hey, let's go to the gym. And then we just laugh. We're both very much all or nothing personalities. So that's something that I'm working on. I'm trying not to be so all or nothing. And I think I'm winning that battle. So I'm very proud of that.
I mean, your evolution that I've seen is a perfect example of that. Sometimes we have to remind ourselves that we're allowed to change, and who we once were doesn't have to be who we're going to be forever. And you're a prime example of that. Your evolution has been amazing. When we first got together, one of the things you said was, what my life has looked like food-wise is just eating whatever I can, whenever I can. Mm-hmm. So now you go to the grocery store, you choose the things that you want to have. You are prepping your food ahead of time, making sure that you're getting fueled properly. How'd you do that?
I listened to my coach. I have been coached enough in my life, in every aspect of my life, to know that a good coach is a good coach. And man, I hit the nail on the head with you.
Aww.
I listened. I didn't, and I wouldn't say to people, don't question things. But for me personally, I know enough to know to trust the process. When you find a coach that's successful, you have to trust the process. And you have to I trust that I am not the expert in this field. That's why I hired you. You're the expert in this field. And you lay out a program that is so easy to understand and follow. It's literally do this, do this, do this. There you go. And watch yourself grow. That's the thing. That's the thing. It starts with the SOS meals. It starts with the simple meals, and then it just grows from there. And if you allow yourself to not put up walls and second guess everything and just let it happen, oh man, does it happen.
Mm-hmm. And you really showed up as a client. You'd be in the car, on the call, making time whenever you can so that we could connect. And I saw that. And you would ask fantastic questions and always filling out your journals. So you put in the work and now you're reaping the rewards. So do you wanna show off the transformation you've made?
Sure. Yeah.
Tell us what your results were.
Oh my gosh. My blood pressure has lowered by 50 points now. So I'm now I was in the 160s over 90s. I'm now sitting at 110 to 112 over 70. And my cholesterol, I can't think of it's dropped about 50 points. No, 80 points, right? It's now in the low 150s, and it was 238. And that's just total cholesterol. All of the other cholesterol subportions have fallen directly into line and are low. I've lost, listen to me, released. Oh my gosh. You know what, Emmie, I don't even know, because at the end of the 6-week program, I put my scale away because I just don't care anymore. But I know for sure 30 pounds have been released, and I'm sure more, because my tiny jeans that I had are too big. So that's been a wonderful bonus that's happened. I'm really happy about that. I've always had vertigo. I've suffered with vertigo. It went away for a while. It came back a little bit, but it is about 80% gone. And I talked to my doctor about that, and he said maybe a milk, maybe a dairy allergy. That's not uncommon for people that have vertigo. So if anybody's suffering from that, boy, there's no harm in reducing or removing dairy from your diet, amongst all the other wonderful things that happen. So,
wow.
That's just physically. I mean, the mental transformation is even better. So that I wasn't even really expecting, the mental transformation. When I started showing up for myself, it's so easy to read a meme or a post, or, show up for yourself, mom. You can't pour from an empty cup, all of those things, but when you actually start showing up for yourself, everybody in your family benefits. My children benefit. My husband benefits. Aside from me, I'm rested. I'm fueled. I'm hydrated. I'm happy. It's a huge difference. And it's easy. It's easy. The food is so easy. That's what I love.
Such a transformation. When you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. And we started in the mindset of, my whole life is dedicated to my boys, all 3 of them, my husband and my 2 boys. So all the energy has to go to them. And then you go, wait a minute. If I do dedicate my whole life and I want all of my energy to go to them, then I have to take care of myself. This is a non-negotiable. This, this is not sustainable. This is a recipe for burnout. If I don't do it this way, if I don't take care of myself. And you saw that in 2015, what burnout looks like. And so really changing your perspective there and saying, wait a minute, if I am this dedicated as a wife and a mother, then this is a non-negotiable that I have to take care of my body.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's just the transformation has been amazing. And I'm not embarrassed to drive down the road holding a potato. I do what I have to do in order to keep my family afloat. And like you said, there were many calls on the road because I spend a lot of time on the road. But it's not impossible, especially when you can open the refrigerator. I spend 30 minutes on Sunday and I spend 30 minutes on Wednesday just preparing some foods. And that's it. And then the whole week I can open the refrigerator. Excuse me. I'm like, okay, potato. Okay, some carrots. Okay, I've got my bag of cauliflower that I can just nuke for a minute, And I have learned how to eat oatmeal on my lap. I'll tell you that. It all works. And I don't miss a meal. And I have a purse full of just in case, because just in case happens a lot in my family. We've ended up through just the 6 weeks, not even the master's program, but just through the 6 weeks, I had a funeral to go to on the East Coast, bless my mother-in-law. Oh, I loved her so much. She was very special, and she passed away, I think, in week 2.
Very this on.
Yes. And so I learned what I knew at the time, and I packed up some food in my suitcase, and we rented a house instead of a hotel room. And I ate potatoes and vegetables and rice, and I made lots of sushi. And sometimes I carried sushi around in my purse because I didn't know, I didn't know what was going to happen there from day to day. And I had to take my son to the hospital during this, which we do a lot. He has some pretty significant seizures, and we end up in the hospital a lot. So I had to do that. Yeah, I mean, life happens, right? No matter what you're faced with, it happens, and it does not wait for you to be done and prepared. It just keeps coming. And so the simple meals for me have made a huge difference.
Yes, the meals have made a huge difference. The simplicity of the program has made a huge difference. But you, Stephanie, I don't want to underestimate your value as how much you showed up as a client, because you're so modest and not even mentioning that you took a call with me when you were traveling for the funeral. You were in tears and you came on the call still. And I said, wow, this is a dedicated client. Another example, you took a call with me. You were in the parking lot of the hospital. You still made our call. I go, this woman is the Energizer Bunny. She's amazing. So you showed up, and you deserve these results because you delved into this program. You said, you know what? I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this 100%. I'm going to show up exactly as I am.
Mm-hmm. And that your team allows for that. You've made me so comfortable, and the other coaches, have made me so comfortable with showing up just like that. That's how we're allowed to show up, messy and imperfect, and sometimes hanging from the ceiling, who knows? But I wasn't going to give up, and I have changed my life. I have completely changed my life. So no, giving up was not an option for me.
Not in Stephanie's world.
Yeah, that's for sure. And on a side note, I just have to mention the amount of food that I'm eating. I think I've told you guys a few times, every time I come into the dining room or wherever we're eating, my husband, he calls me woman. That's my nickname, or wife. He says, my God, woman, look at what you are eating. I don't eat that much. And I say, but you could, you know. But it's, I'm not shy with the food. That is, you know, and it's a 2 bowls, one of veggies and one of my starch. And it makes me very happy to be able to eat until I'm satiated, because I came from such a long, long time of eating the little, you know, little Tupperware like that, not a morsel more. And then get on the elliptical and go for 3 hours. And I don't know how I survived that.
You did your survival rate.
Did I? I wound up in the hospital, but I am thriving now. There's no survival mode in this house for me anymore. It's all thriving.
And how are you celebrating your birthday today?
Well, we just came back from Las Vegas. So we spent a week in Vegas. We just got back last night late. So that was our celebration. And if I just might mention, the Wynn properties have vegan options on every single menu there. Not necessarily healthy, but vegan options, and you can make it healthy. You can certainly, I had my broccolini and oatmeal for breakfast, and broccolini and asparagus and oatmeal. And, but I also, I took some time to use my system that you taught me. And I went to Las Vegas for an entire week and ate out nearly every single meal and had a little bit of alcohol. I'm not much of a big drinker, but a little bit. And I am the same weight that I was. That's never happened to me. You know, the first time that did happen to me, that was New York when I had to go to the funeral. And I came back. I had actually released more weight that week. But this week, with some signature system foods and some fun, you know, I don't weigh a pound more. So it works.
Sure does. I think that the owner of the Wynn properties is vegan, and that's why they have vegan options. Is that true?
That's what I heard. Yeah. So, I mean, it's not just like one thing in the corner of the menu. There are several options, and they're happy to, like our last night, we went to the steakhouse there, which is a phenomenal choice for us. So the asparagus comes grilled with lemon oil. So just ask for it steamed. You know, it's not hard to do. It's very easy to eat there. It was very easy to eat wherever we went. So I think the world is more friendly for us now.
And you can have more than 6 spears of asparagus this time.
I had 2 orders.
The world, huh?
I'm proud of myself. I eat as much as I want now. I don't think about it anymore. I don't think about meal times. Times are done. You know, that's something that you teach that was so profound to me, is just because it's 8 o'clock in the morning doesn't mean it's time for breakfast. It's time for breakfast when you feel hungry. And that's how I live my life now. But I always carry food with me because I never know where I'm going to be. I never know what's going to unravel during the day. So I'm always prepared. And when hunger comes, if that's in the emergency room, then that's when I eat. You know, if it's driving down the road, then that's when I eat.
Beautiful. Well, thank you so much, Stephanie. This was amazing.
Thank you, Emmie, and thanks to your team. And you've changed another life here, for sure.
Thank you.
And I'm so happy to be in the master's program. That's working so well for me. I like having the extension. I think the 6 weeks for me was working through, it's learning. You're not supposed to be perfect. Well, you're not supposed to be perfect at all, right? But you're not supposed to do things perfectly in the 6 weeks. And I knew that, and that's okay. And even in the master's program, I'm still learning. Yeah. I'm going to take this time to learn and keep learning. And then I'll be a master. But right now I'm working on it.
And if we ever stop learning, that's when we have an issue.
Yeah.
We're always growing, always evolving, always learning, for sure.
Yeah, there's always something to learn with this. Absolutely.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
Comment motorcycle if you made it to the end of the video. Thank you, Stephanie, for doing this video. You are so beautiful inside and out, and I am blessed to have worked with you. All right, my honeys, I'll see you in the next one.